Women Who Own It podcast spotlights women business owners who are pioneers in their field, setting trends, blazing trails, and creating game-changing innovations. Brought to you by WeBank, the largest certifier of women-owned businesses in the U.S. and a leading advocate for women business owners and entrepreneurs. And me, Allison Maslan. I've been a business owner for the last 35 years. I'm the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of the book Scale or Fail. So join our bold community of women who built it, grew it, and own it. I'll see you on the show. Welcome to the WeBank podcast, Women Who Own It. I am your host, Allison Maslan. I am a business mentor and founder of Pinnacle Global Network, and we coach business owners around the world to grow and scale their business. Now, this podcast, Women Who Own It, it represents business owners around the world for business leaders, by business leaders, and really highlighting women business owners and all the phenomenal things that they're doing in the world and really inspiring people, making a difference. And this is why I'm so excited to have our special guest today. And boy, she is a mover and a shaker. So you definitely are going to want to listen to this entire podcast. You're going to learn so much. Katarina Samardzija is the founder and CEO of Locker Lifestyle, which designs and distributes one-of-a-kind wearable wrist wallets and pocket headbands for stashing essentials like cash, keys, cards, and more. Kat started her business after having her valuables stolen out of her gym locker in college. And so she's tapped into a need, clearly. So before age 20, she had obtained 3 trademarks, 2 patents, and then lost her entire business to a devastating fire. We're going to talk a little bit about that. This was right after she started her company. But by age 22, she'd graduated college with a degree in entrepreneurship and marketing. She had already won over 14 national pitch competitions, including the youngest to win the FedEx Small Business Grant Contest. And she built her own website and became the full-time CEO of Locker Lifestyle. Wow, Kat, so excited that you are here.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so your story is phenomenal. You have so much to share. And so can you tell us a little bit of your background? I mean, did you set out and say, you know what, I don't want to work for anybody else. I really want to have my own business. You know, tell us a little bit about that early inspiration.
Yeah, so at first it was quite the opposite. Half of my family they're entrepreneurs and the other half is in the medical field. And at first, the majority of my life, I thought that that's what I wanted to do. I went to school, I looked for, some of the best medical programs to get into. I started off in biomedical sciences. I was taking organic chemistry my freshman, sophomore year. And then when I had my valuables stolen out of my gym locker in college after tennis practice, I was so frustrated that I couldn't find this product to help me store my valuables safely. So I decided I had to do something about it, and originally wanted to just create one product for myself, a wrist wallet that can be wearable, machine washable, and fortunately my momager, as I like to call her, so she had a bridal store. I met with her and I said, okay, I want this, this, and this just for me. And then once I was wearing it around campus, I had all these people asking me and saying, oh my gosh, where can I get one? You're not the only one with this problem. And I figured I really had something when people were knocking on my dorm room asking for one to tailgate and go to the gym and things like that. And I didn't, both of my parents have their own businesses, and I didn't really realize my entrepreneurial path until a little bit later. So my junior year is actually when I changed my major to double in entrepreneurship and marketing.
Great. Well, what was so wonderful about that, not you losing your belongings, but you already knew when you started that you had a demand. When oftentimes it's the other way around, someone has an idea and a product and they want to see if there's a demand. You already had a customer base waiting for you, which was wonderful.
Yeah, it was started coming after my very first prototype. And so that's what initiated my desire to kind of transition into this business world. And then, like you said, so once I really started the business and started selling on a product and getting some traction, I realized that one of my goals in life is to never need a resume, and that I wanted to kind of create my own path and continually teach myself to learn, and bring other people, build a team, and build products and experiences that were proprietary to our brand.
Fantastic. So now, obviously, you started this at a young age, and you and I were talking before. I started my business when I was 19. And I remember feeling like at that time, which was many years ago, that I had to prove myself more just because I was so young. And things have changed a little these days. But what do you feel has been the most challenging part of growing a business, while you were still in college?
Not only was, so in college, I played tennis. I chose my university based on the best scholarship option. So not only did I have class priorities, I had practice every day for almost 3 hours. So I was balancing my time from trying to start this company, doing homework, studying, and training, all year round. So it's not that our tennis also was seasonal. It was both fall and winter season. So it was pretty demanding. And at first it was not a lot of sleep, but for me, it was so worth it starting to get this sort of traction. And being in the entrepreneurship major, we were learning things that I was already starting to do. And so I had to balance, okay, maybe I'm going to do a few extra emails in class, and figuring out how I was going to cut things here and there or stay up a little bit later. But I think even now, it's being a sole founder and a young woman in business, feel like I'm highly underestimated sometimes for being so young and not having certain experiences, because right out of college, I decided to pursue the business full time. And so with a lot of even suppliers and manufacturers, I wasn't trusted as much or taken as seriously, because either I was a woman or just because I was so young. So it was always those two things. And I felt like I was continually having to prove myself in that regard. But once I found the right mentors to push me and prove and show me that all these things are negotiable, and that I deserve better, and in terms of sourcing and things like that, that's when I knew that I couldn't listen to that sort of environment.
Yeah, that's great. And good for you for, having the mentorship. I think it's really key. It's hard enough in business, and it can feel very isolating as a business owner, not knowing the answers. And so when you've had that kind of negativity come at you, because I think most business owners at some point get that, and I think a lot for women, how do you deal with that negativity? I mean, internally, how do you process it or address it?
Playing sports all my life, I think that's helped me transition into the business world, as this almost being my next sport, because I've always had to take negativity and losses and learn how to use that as fuel. And so all of that negativity was more motivation to do better, come up with more things, make bigger moves, and be bold, because it was always more motivating to me. So on it, like taking that and having the willpower to change it, that's something that has to come from you. That's not something someone else can really tell you. So I had to start training myself at a young age, and that was helped me transition from my life and being in sports for so long.
Yeah, I do really see the correlation with sports with successful business owners, because, well, there's your competitive spirit, but
And a lot of it is who I was surrounding myself with too. Because if I was around constant negativity, I'm sure it would be very different. But because I had such positive support from my family and mentors, that's what also helped shift my mindset. So it was a culmination of things.
Oh, that is, thank you for bringing that up, because gosh, it's hard enough building a business. And then, you need to be around positive people. That is so key. So 14 pitch contests, winning those, that's amazing. So you obviously have some secret sauce here. So what are some, and I think this is something that business owners struggle with sales a lot, and it really is the more important thing in business. It's the oxygen for a company. So could you share a few key things that business owners should know to make a more convincing or successful pitch for their business?
I think especially in the pitch competitions that I've done, it was always an advantage for me being a solo founder because I had to wear so many hats at so many different times, and that's every business owner. But even for co-founders, some people are, okay, they delegate this side to the business and this person does the other side. Whereas I had to be obsessed with and train and learn and do and implement every single aspect. And so when I was asked a question by a judge or had to deal with a certain category, I was able to touch on that and go dive deep into what exactly worked, what didn't. And then because I learned that, it's easier for me to train and onboard people for that because I know what works and what doesn't. And then I would say another thing is I'm obsessed with my business in a way to the point where it can be discouraging, but I have to be open and comfortable with working every aspect of the business at certain times because there's not always going to be someone who can manage those things. And I think a lot of the pitches too it's getting feedback. Like I practice so much and being in front of people, it's, whether it's friends or classmates, things like that, you can't just wing something, put some a slide deck together and get up on stage and talk to people. It takes practice over and over. Like I would have to get my pitches down to, plus or minus 3 seconds of difference. Like that's how, serious I was about getting that timing and making sure that I was getting all the points across. So being overly prepared was something that was a key factor for me.
Yeah, I think that is so smart, for sure. Because you have this very limited amount of seconds and you don't want to waste one of them. And so just to touch on that a little bit more, just because this is so important, are there other mistakes that you see, Kat, that people are making in their pitches that, maybe with just a little shift, it would help them?
I would say a really important aspect that's overlooked is the actual pitch deck themselves. If there's a lot of words on them, it's very easy to distract the judges or audience from reading your slides instead of listening to you because the way you deliver your story and your message as a founder is very different than what it's going to be in writing. So very small bullet points. People are very visual, so showing really great imagery, real product uses or of your services, things like that, and no stock images. I think that's a huge one that you see and that creates a lack of connection between your audience if you have things like that. And then another would be if you're not practicing your pitch and you're saying words such as like or stuttering in a way, if you're pausing and things sound very rehearsed, it's also going to distract from your actual message in a pitch. So whether it's recording yourself or doing it from friends and being open to their feedback, I think that's something that was also pretty important for me. And you could tell if two people were so close in a pitch and the one person's, made a couple hiccups or, maybe even paused for a second on something, it was very easy to get distracted and tell the difference between two very, very good pitches.
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you find that within the pitch, even though you have a very short window of time, sharing story is a great way to get your message across?
That's a really great point. That's huge for me because the majority of what I think people were able to connect with is I shared stories from, losses to successes, and you want to bring people in emotionally because not every person in that audience or every judge is going to just connect to your numbers. If you're able to bring in those real experiences, that's what's going to make you memorable. You want to make them laugh, you want to make them sad at points, so you can bring them on this journey with you so they can feel what you felt and feel like they're in that story, like you're sharing with that person individually.
Lowe's has a proud history of supporting the communities where we live and work. As the pandemic upended small businesses nationwide, Lowe's pledged $55 million in grants to support women and minority-owned businesses, as well as to rural small businesses, which were all affected disproportionately. In addition, Lowe's launched Making It, with Lowe's, a virtual pitch program to identify innovative products from diverse small businesses nationwide. For the latest news, follow Lowe's Media on Twitter. Oh, that is so helpful. Definitely, definitely helpful. So you know, as I was saying when I introduced you, you get your business up and running and then you lose it by a fire just a few months after starting. And I think, you know, especially for a new business owner, it would be so easy to get devastated and then say, oh, it wasn't meant to be. But you jump right back, you got into action. What do you feel helped you or allowed you to get through this loss and really give your business what it needs, you know, even to get you where you are now?
Right. So at first it was extremely discouraging because part of me was, okay, if this is not a sign from God or whatever that this needs to end, I don't know what is. But then the other part of me thought, wow, I had all of this traction in so little time, so fast, and that there's things that I did that I know I can do better. And I'm still in school, so I felt like I still had plenty of resources to leverage, especially as a student. There were so many things and people still willing to help. But what really brought me to that next level was being advised to enter my first pitch competition. One of my professors just told me to go for it. I was so uncomfortable. I had no idea how to do it, what a pitch deck was, none of that. And by winning that competition, for me, it was that validation that not only do I believe in this product or my parents telling me it's just good, that, you know, it was other people, it was thousands of people in that audience that saw the potential. And that was a little capital to find a new platform, rebuild the website, and start going up from there. And that little bit of PR helped me jump back in terms of sales, because I'm still learning every single day with the business. So I couldn't get discouraged based on what I didn't know. I had to use the resources around me and pull from exactly what I did know, because that's where my strengths were.
Yeah, well, I do think getting that validation absolutely helps. Like, you know, you're on to something, but, you know, way to go with jumping back in, because I do think that it takes a while to build that entrepreneurial mindset. There's lots of ups and downs, but after a while you become more resilient.
And I'd like to add one more thing, because, you know, it wasn't just that pitch competition as well that helped me realize that, okay, I need certain mentors, and I went out searching and for certain events and networking to be able to help pool those resources. They didn't just fall in my lap. That was, okay, I can, you know, target certain things and find certain people, and if you don't ask, you may never get it. So, you know, it couldn't hurt for me to go out and search out people for advice in non-competitive categories, and that was another factor as well.
Yeah, well, good for you for asking for help. Asking for help is a sign of strength, and you know, so that's great, and that's what we do. We mentor business owners, so I'm a big believer in asking for help, obviously. So, what do you feel like, Kat, have been some of your biggest lessons along the journey? Like, it could be in your leadership, it could be in building a team or sales. Can you just share some of those tidbits?
Two of my favorite quotes that I think about all the time and I still use to this day are, one is that everything is negotiable. So when I was not taken seriously from certain suppliers or shut down for my minimums or my growth potential, it was that there's always ways around it. Like whatever offer is set out first, that's never the best offer. Like there's always ways around certain things, and that's stuck with me since and saved me lots of money, lots of time. And then another would be that this is one of my favorite quotes, that it's find a group of people that challenge and inspire you, spend a lot of time with them, and it will change your life. And for me, that was making sure that I'm surrounding myself with not only positive people, but mentors who support what I'm doing, family members who I support what I'm doing, because they're always going to be there when those things get really tough. So those two are what I always go back to.
Yeah, well, that is such great advice. And obviously one of the reasons why I love WeBank. And so how has WeBank contributed to your growth. And so for others that are listening that are certified or thinking of getting certified, how they can also make the best use of this great organization and their certification.
I recommended the organization to so many people. I should get an affiliate link at this point, but I've had such a great experience. I had my first encounter with them last June at the Student Entrepreneur program. And so I got my start with that pitch competition. And it was not only that conference that was so incredible, it was the network that I was connected to. And every single event we went to, every single person in that room wanted to help you, wanted to connect, can share their ups and share their downs. And it was so powerful to be amongst that group with such similar, I guess, motivators in life and aspirations. And I've been connected to so many corporate partners and other members. It was not just the corporate members who you get this direct line to, but it's also other women, minority-owned businesses to have those similar mindset and be able to network with that kind of group. That's something that's absolutely priceless.
It really is. And like you were saying earlier, you have to surround yourself with people that are making things happen. And that's, definitely what you get with WeBank. And what about just with leadership in general and building a team? How has that been for you? Hiring people, firing people? Have you had some challenges there or some lessons?
Absolutely. I've had to do a lot of both in the short amount of time, even it seems like, but I realized that I had to, not people aren't going to be able to read my mind. So when I put as many things to paper and was as transparent about things as possible, as soon as possible, that's when the relationship was most successful. And I realized that, I do have to be patient, whether it's bringing on an intern or a new team member, that I'm learning both their personal and professional goals because they're part of this team. We're all working towards one goal. So if I can't work with them on both sides, I won't be able to understand them and the way they work. So I make sure it's almost like a survey process. I go through, what's their style of work? How do they like to work? Are they better in the mornings, at night? Like I want to know all of these details because I think that contributes to then both of our successes. So in terms of, having to fire people, I realize that if I'm thinking about the person constantly and they're creating, minor struggles, that's something that's not going to work long term and better for the both of us to have to pull the plug early. And it's very, very difficult. It doesn't feel good, but in the end, it's completely necessary.
Well, it's great advice. And it's absolutely true. If you're spending all this time talking and frustrated, there's definitely something that's going on there to pay attention to. And these are such great lessons that you've learned early on that are going to serve you for so many years. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And with everything that's been going on with COVID-19 and, for whenever somebody is actually going to be watching or listening to this podcast, I'm sure there will be impacts from this time, for quite a while. So how has that impacted you? And what advice would you give some other business owners that have struggled through some losses during this time as well?
Yeah, it's definitely been very frustrating, but for us, it was constantly trying to figure out ways to pivot. The same ways aren't always going to continually work for us. Like at first we were very retail focused, and then all of these businesses are closed. So we lost the majority of our retail channels and then realized that, okay, we're going to take the time to really build up our website, increase our product breadth, and then in terms of gaining customer data, e-commerce was where it was at. So that turned to be a positive thing for us. So then we could be targeting people more specifically and really learning what our customers need. And then we realize we're trying to figure out also in terms of products, how can we transition to help people during this time. And so I kept hearing how nurses or any frontline worker who were wearing masks for long periods of time had such ear irritation. And we already had these headbands in stock. They weren't moving for us. And my grandmother showed me how to sew buttons on them. I made one prototype and then it went viral. The video we had, it's like, we're almost to 50,000 views now for one video, and that I made in
Wow.
my backyard, just showing the function of it. And so that proved that, okay, there really is this need. And, production then we've, sold more button headbands and reached more frontline workers and people than in, just a span of 2 weeks than any of our entire products for the entire year so far. So that helped us transition and accepting that, okay, our products now, maybe that's not something that's completely necessary, and working with the times and listening to our customers. So surveys have been super important to us because so many more people are online now that asking for surveys, asking questions, people are more willing to answer at these times. And being present on, all your social media channels is also a really important thing. Again, people are at home, they're maybe more bored, and figuring out ways to give them something, whether it's a service for something else to do or transitioning your product to, help them in other ways, because maybe your current function isn't something that's serving everyone right now. So accepting the fact that you may have to pivot is okay.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I recommend everybody go to your website and see those headbands. I thought that is so innovative. So good for you, again, finding a gap and figuring that out. And then obviously beefing up your direct to consumer is key. And that's going to last you long beyond this COVID time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if, anyone wants to see more of our button headbands, it's lockerlifestyle.com, LOCKER lifestyle, LIFESTYLE. And we respond to all of our questions. Also, another thing I would say for any business owners is we've changed our customer service to be 7 days a week, most hours of the day, to make sure that any questions, concerns, that we are always on and we are ready to answer and deal and find ways to help people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're doing that. And that's also something that those of you listening, it's super smart to have that customer service there, because you could lose a customer. Somebody would be there and they don't get their questions answered. So definitely check out Kat's website. And so before we hop off, what have been some of, what is some advice that you could give other young business owners, especially young female business owners, to create success in their business? What could you share?
I would say, first off, as previously mentioned, don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, all someone could say is no. And then if they say no, you ask again. And you just keep asking, because eventually they're going to answer. You're going to be able to find someone else who will be able to help you. So being persistent is absolutely key. Second, I would say that is just, I think what also helped in my successes with pitch competitions is that even though I was questioning something, I didn't wait on it. I just kept pursuing it and going at it full force. I didn't wait for something to happen. I just pursued it right away, and kind of was more reactive than proactive, because I just wanted to see what would happen. And then the third would be that everything is negotiable again. So not accepting that someone's saying no, not accepting certain pricing things. Like, there's always ways to do better and be better. And I think that's been applicable to so many aspects of my business, and that I hope other people would realize that too.
Such great advice. So don't do it alone. Ask for help. Don't take no for an answer, right?
For sure.
Always negotiable there. And then just, crazy persistence, which is, going to get you through everything. And you have all of those things and so much more, Kat. So thank you so much for sharing all of this great wisdom today. And I just can't wait to see what else you've got going on here, and stay in touch with all your new products. Do you have some new things coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so we have a whole new 6 new colors launching for us in July. And at the end of July, we have a new patented product coming out. So I'm super excited to be able to share that soon. You can follow along on any of our social media. We'll be posting updates about that. and as well as, team information, things like that. And if any other WeBank members and listeners have questions or want to connect, I would love to. And they can reach me on LinkedIn at Kat Samardzija, or on our website. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you, those of you that have joined us for the Women Who Own It podcast. If you have not subscribed, please do so right now. And that way you get the episodes coming right to you. You don't miss anything. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere where podcasts are played. And we really value your time, and we want to support you to help you grow your business and make all the connections that you need. So until next time on Women Who Own It, get out there, elevate yourself, because you are worth it.